All right, I'm up.
All right, okay, don't fall over. Go ahead, you.
Hey, welcome back to Me Theory. I'm your host, Chad. It's been quite an interesting weekend here in Texas. Yeah, as you see behind me here, I've got a close-up of a hat, and it's actually a video I'm going to play for you. Might notice a new spiffy shirt. We had a bit of a reunion, big special occasion. Our coach from high school was inducted to the District Hall of Fame. Finally. We've been trying to get him in for the past several years, and he's already in the state Hall of Fame, and I think a National Hall of Fame too. He created a dynasty, and I was a small part of it, very small part of it. Only 130 pounds of it at the time. Now I'm twice the man I used to be. Anyways, yeah. I guess you could say I'm doxing myself a bit here, but I don't care. I had a lot of introspection and retrospection going on this weekend. Friday night we had our meetup, and this video was shot there at the restaurant. And an old football player from our school who has a business that makes hats. He made the hats for the guys, and he came to show support. And he gave us a pretty good speech, man. He fired me up. In a nutshell, he said it was important that all other athletes from our school take time to show respect for the one man who created the only champions, the only dynasty our school's ever seen. Paraphrase. And it couldn't be truer. And what you're about to see are a bunch of guys, a bunch of old dudes, and spanning from the late 80s to the late 90s, racked up a stack of trophies, a stack of titles, and changed a whole lot of lives. And you know, you'll see my goofy self up there cutting up a bit on the mic. And if given the chance, I would have probably said a bit more. But there was a whole lot more retrospection going on after that was shot. And I'll have some notes after this. I just want to share the words of some guys that I spent a lot of time training with. Some guys I didn't meet until last night or Friday night, but I always knew them by name and reputation. I saw their names on the wall every day in practice. Puking in the trash can, look up, see their names on the wall again. And it really is a family. So I just want y'all to hear them in their words. And I'm really glad he shot this video. Thanks again, Anthony. I'm just going to roll this thing. Sound will cut in here in a minute. This is just some pictures of Coach before we get rolling.
Hey Terry, this is Tim Marzola. I was the coach at MacArthur High School from 1976 to 1982, and you took my place in 1982 when I went to Highland Park High School to start the program there. We had a number of years where we got an opportunity to compete against one another. One of the great coaches in Texas, or you are one of the great coaches that ever came out of Texas, and it was an honor to be able to coach against you and get to know you.
Dean Gamboa, 98 pounds, class of, wrestled in 86. I was undefeated in matches, and I went to regionals.
Ian Sanderlin, class of 1990, wrestled at 112 freshman year, 112 sophomore year, 119 junior year, 36-4, third place in state. Senior year, third place in state, 29-5.
James Seacox, class of 95. Most team members known as Big Blue. Freshman year I was heavyweight, then I went down to 180. Sophomore year I went down to 172. Got medically disqualified from there and became a team manager for my junior and senior year. And that means is I was a manager, help coach and me take care of all the stuff behind in the background.
Hi, I'm Amir Bakshahi. We're here for Coach Terry Knouse's pre-Hall of Fame inductee appointment dinner tomorrow night. I wrestled 112 all 4 years. I graduated in 1996. We had a great team. We were a powerhouse. MacArthur Irving was known all through Texas as a powerhouse for like a decade. The whole time, basically, Coach Knouse graduated from Iowa State. As you know, was the pinnacle of college collegiate wrestling. He was a great coach and still is. Anyways, appreciate you guys. I wish you could all make it out tonight. Glad to be here.
Brian Murkison, graduated in 96, wrestled at 130, finished third state. Actually got into wrestling by mistake, supposed to be signed up for soccer, and coach made sure that I didn't go back to soccer, kept me in wrestling, and best decision ever made.
Graduated in 1996. Vargas, I graduated in 1993. I wrestled Coach Knouse. Let me see, I got to wrestle Coach Knouse was 90 through 93. Thanks Coach Knouse, I kept my nose clean. I was able to go to college and become a teacher, just like him. Other than that, I can tell you that he was the greatest influence in my life. Thanks, Coach.
I'm Patrick Johnson, class of 95. I was heavyweight, started in 91, and varsity. Was the most valuable wrestler at MAC, and that was really cool. I didn't realize how cool it was until people started coming and telling me, so you get that. And thanks, Coach, for that. And you know, what I think about all the time, and I thought about a lot when I saw the announcement this year with ISD Hall of Fame there, is that there's so many times in my adult life where, whether it's work ethic or just managing the roles or family, you know, highs, lows, where I find a direct connection to an influence from those 4 years on the MAC wrestling team and Coach Knouse directly. So thank you, Coach. I would not have the life I have today.
Coach Knouse, Bobby Whitney. I wrestled 126 and 135, depending on where you needed me. My message to you is thank you for kicking my ass on the daily, because it made me a bigger and better man. Thank you. Graduated in 1990.
I was heavyweight back.
You notice how guys are getting choked up as they talk about coach. There's a lot of reasons for it. A lot of reasons for it.
When heavyweight was 200 to 274.
Talk that shit.
I think my freshman year I had to eat to make 200. By the time my senior year, I needed to lose a little weight to make 274. But I remember Coach whistling when he'd beat my ass every day. He was the only man I knew that could whistle and just sit there and throw you all around the damn room. So congrats, Coach. You deserve it. You deserved it a long ass time ago. I love you, and I respect the hell out of you. And I wouldn't be the man I was without the man I am today without your guidance. I appreciate it.
All right, Joe Trevino, class 93. I was heavyweight and 189. It was tough because I wrestled all the big guys, the really, really big guys, Robert Couch and Scott Stovall. I don't have any accolades. I tried my best, but man, it was a tough game. I'll tell you what, Coach, I learned a lot from you. I learned about hard work, and I learned about I'll never forget. Anytime I'd be losing, you'd yell, I'd say, Joe, you got him right where you want him. But I learned about hard work, and later in life, I ended up being a coach, and I took after you. I would not be the man that I am today if you not mentored me and coached me. Love you.
Chad Mercer, class 95.
This dork.
Biggest accolades is that I got to wrestle with the greatness that is MacArthur High School wrestling. Bill Cardinals and Coach gave us the skills, the understanding, and the knowledge to be able to become champions wherever at in life. Thanks, Coach.
G. Kamya, class of 96, 103 pounds, 3-time state placer, state champion, undefeated 1996. I owe it all to Coach. I was a scrawny little kid with no athletic ability. Coach made me.
He's an absolute killer. Don't believe him.
This guy right here. Super happy for you. Congratulations. Well overdue. We love you. Thank you so much for everything you've done for this program.
Adam Schaefer, 145, class of 99, third at state. Coach, I appreciate everything you did for me. You're still in
All my sparring partners. All my sparring partners are placers in state.
Hey, Coach Knouse, Clint Corbin, weight class 95 to 112. Man, I appreciate all you did for us and pushing us and getting us there. Thank you.
Hey, Coach. I want to say, one, congratulations on a fantastic career, getting inducted all these Hall of Fames. Two, I want to let you know, all the things you taught me in wrestling came to fruition when I became an urban police officer. You taught me the moves I needed to keep myself safe on the streets, take the bad guys down, get their ass in jail. Thank you for that. It was a confidence boost I needed at that time in my life. You really are the man. Travis Jackson.
Hey, Coach, Justin Billy. Graduated 96, wrestled freshman, sophomore year, 92, 93, I guess. 172, or what it was, freshman year, and 83, sophomore year. I got my butt chewed out for gaining some pounds over the summer, but that's what happened. You taught me to push through the pain, and that has helped me grow into where I am today and the last several years, so I'm beyond appreciative. So thank you.
Rich Chavez, class of 91. I wrestled a freshman at MacArthur, 126 pounder and 132 pounder. State champion my freshman year. Coach, I have the most utmost respect for you. I'm very happy for you. Congratulations on this Hall of Fame. Going into the Hall of Fame, it's well deserved. I remember being with you, wrestling with you in the junior leagues, and then into the high school. I have fond memories of you taking us across the state. I remember going not only in high school, but also in freestyle wrestling. You always were somebody who would always take care of anybody, no matter what. If you don't remember, we were in an Oklahoma tournament before I was in high school, and my parents' car got stolen, and you and your family took us back home in your little minivan all the way back home from Oklahoma. So I'll always have the fondest memories for all your dedication and leadership. Thank you so much, Coach. Congratulations.
Estrada, class of 1990, 156 weight class, wrestle debut for Coach. Want to say thank you. You inspired me to join the Marine Corps. Face a lot of adversity. Thank you. Made me grow up as a man. Thank you.
Hello, Coach Knouse. Congratulations on your accolades. My name is Brad Knouse. I was in MacArthur High School from 1984 to 88. I wrestled 176 and 185, and I won 3 state championships and as a runner-up once. Sorry, I stand for everything. I wouldn't be the person I am today without you.
I love the sport.
Okay, that was Coach Knouse's son, the last one. Absolute legend, dude. Absolute legend. You could see guys getting choked up for their own reasons. There are several police officers military guys, and some high level athletes that went on from that. And like you see guys get choked up talking about it and referencing their training saving their lives. And I'm another one. I didn't say that on the video. I told it to Coach's face immediately when I got to talk to him previous to this. First of all, he didn't recognize me, which I kind of knew that was going to be the case, which is hilarious. And then his first response was like, wow, you grew up. But yeah, I too joined the Marine Corps, and I ended up in a platoon that had a ton of dudes from the Midwest, a bunch of awesome wrestlers. And I just kind of kept it to myself where I had wrestled. But before you knew it, we're getting in scraps and wrestling and stuff, and I was able to hang. And surprised a few guys. They're like, where'd you learn to wrestle? And I told them. MacArthur, Coach Knouse. We wrestled with Dan Gable. Yeah. If you can, put your kids in wrestling. You know, when you get guys to a student to a point, mental physical exhaustion, you're at this threshold where you are writing directly to the hard drive, things that will not be forgotten. It's really hard to do that in training, like firearms training and defensive tactics, whatever, driving, whatever skill, physical skill. It's hard to get people to that window. It's a whole psychological thing, but it gets ego out of the way. And it's hard to get to that point. You have to do a lot of artificialities, incorporation, a lot of physicality into the training just to get somebody to that point to where now you're writing directly to their hard drive. And every day, Coach is writing to our hard drives, things that we wouldn't forget. We might forget what the move's called, but we haven't lost the understanding of body mechanics, leverage, strength, flexibility, gauging distance, closing distance. And those things you don't lose. Might get rusty. I miss these guys, man. It was really good to see them again. And you see they've all moved on with life. Some guys are in better shape or just different shapes now, like myself. But Coach taught us a lot. And he's a science teacher too. And what you're about to hear now, when the group was all piled together, and there were others that had either already left or just couldn't make it. There's a lot of dudes that couldn't make it, and it sucks. But we've resolved to get together more often. But you heard us introduce ourselves, our weight class, our graduation year, and our accolades and messages to Coach. And then Anthony, once he got us all together for pictures, he told Coach what he had done and that he wanted to get his own little video clip. And that's what you're about to see here. And I want you to see the mindset and attitude of a real coach, a real teacher, and see what really matters most, and see what is instilled by a person like that, and see how guys will travel from all over just to come say thank you. These guys would do anything for that man and his wife right there, Pat. So let's hear Coach in his own words. Might have to turn it up a little bit if I can. So I want to make sure you can hear him. There's a lot of background noise. The bartender was running a deep sink behind us. Let's hear what Coach had to say.
I love coaching and appreciate everybody who came out and joined my hobby with me. Thank you.
Congratulations on your Hall of Fame, Coach. Well deserved.
Humility. We used to just beat the crap out of each other. Day in, day out. We saw us at our weakest. Those eyes right there, looking over the top of his glasses at you, man. I need a second. Apologies for that. Getting over a bit of a cough here. what I didn't say the other night, and I wish I had spoken to even like directly to Coach and on the video. I was not a good student. I come from a baseball family, but I was dragging an anchor through life with me, a learning disability that was misdiagnosed from an early age and uncorrected, untreated, no modifications for. I just had to suck it up. And I could get through my intelligence and personality for so long. But then in high school, it got to be too much. My grades started falling by, and it came around to baseball season. I wouldn't have eligibility for no pass, no play, right? And there's a lot going on there emotionally for me, being the one in the family that wasn't playing ball. And I loved baseball. I just couldn't play because I wasn't eligible. That's pretty good too. Middle of 3 boys, middle of 5 kids, sister on either end, and both of my brothers played high level baseball, D1. Older brother even got into the minors for a bit. Younger brother only recently stopped coaching at college level, junior college level, and was doing that for close to 20 years coaching. And I was the one that didn't play baseball because I couldn't stay eligible. I had a principal that took an interest in me, Ricky French, who he could tell something was different, and he and others at the school, along with my mom and dad, they finally got me pigeonholed and got me tested again and discovered that no, I don't have dyslexia, dysgraphia, severe auditory exclusion, probably a couple other things. And with that came a whole bunch of modifications and stuff like that, and that was my big turnaround. Now playing baseball, I felt like I lost too much time playing ball. But old Ricky was like, you should wrestle. I was like, thinking Hulk Hogan and stuff. I was like a beanpole. Anyways, so he talked me into it. 2 big changes. I needed some electives, and I needed electives that I could really nail to help get my GPA up. And my mom told him that I could sing. And so they sent me down to the choir room to audition. And we had this geriatric choir director. He's the original choir director who had opened the school, 30 years earlier. And like on his smoke break, he gave me an audition, jotted on some paper. He's like, here you go. And he sent me back to the counselor. I was like, oh, whatever. I was not with it with doing the choir thing. And then counselor kind of flipped out. She's like, oh, wow. I was like, what? He just put you in a cappella choir. I'm like, whatever. It's like varsity, like walked on varsity, basically. And I got in there and saw, oh man, a bunch of my older brother's friends are in here. There's a bunch of cheerleaders in here. This is actually kind of cool. This is good for me. And I did real well with it. But at the same time, they're like, athletic. And so I went on down to see Coach. And I was at a loss, man. I knew nothing about collegiate wrestling. And we had this dank dungeon looking, it was awesome, wrestling room. Like, it was small. It was so small. It was probably smaller than our living room here in our house. And put me on JV right off the bat. And I was in there with all these other skinny little guys and just getting throttled. I was so lost. And I started growing to love it. And it started growing on me. That's how I got into wrestling. And man, I wish I got into wrestling when I was 5 years old, man. I don't know if you could hear me earlier, and I said these were my sparring partners. Majid, Adam, Amir, Adam's brother Nathan. Like we had so many dudes in my weight class and the weight classes above and below me. Like, we were so stacked. It was Thunderdome every day. And Coach just worked us, man. Worked us. And preseason and then throughout the season, I don't remember seeing much daylight. We were in there about 6:30 in the morning for captain's practice. Get home almost 7 o'clock at night. It was great. Picked up some injuries. Everybody did. Got some funny stories. I really only remember my worst experiences. I know I had a lot of good ones. I had a lot of great times with those guys. But that's just my story getting out of the wrestling team. Kid with a learning disability, trying to figure out how to get through high school and graduate. Picked up a new sport. And then it was just a blur. My high school experience kind of turned around on its head. Had a great time with it. Graduated with actually some kind of distinction. No academic honors. No, I think I was class friendliest with, who was it? Old Robin. And I can't remember what her married name is now. Yeah. But Coach is a big reason why I even got through school. And so many of those lessons learned carried me forward into the Marine Corps. And his approach to training, so spot on. He could take guys with no background, and a lot of them with no real athletic background, and put them through the meat grinder and build them up, but do it out of love. And he held it to a high discipline standard. And it was in such a way you didn't want to disappoint him. And then you get out there and he's with you on the mat. He is with you on the mat. And he would let you make your own call. I broke my nose one night. It was inter-squad duel before a big tournament that we hosted called the North Texas Open. It was the biggest tournament in Texas at the time. We had some 9 mats in our field house. It was huge. People came in from all over to wrestle. Former, out of high school, like college and adults, like it was open, true open. Broke my nose the week of in the duel. And I was wrestling Cedric Colby, who had grown up wrestling for Coach. Coach also ran a youth program to develop wrestling as a sport in our area. So these young kids that he had trained up from the start were monsters by high school. And I'm wrestling Cedric, and I believe is also in the Hall of Fame now too. And right off the bat, we're circling each other, and we both shot in on inside singles and headbutted each other right in the face. And I kind of flashed a bit, and he came to sitting on my butt, and looking at him, and he's sitting on his butt in front of everybody. Everyone's watching us. And shaking their heads, and they're like, I think they called a timeout or something. Don't remember much, but I just remember walking off the mat, and Coach said something, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I think so. I feel kind of dizzy." And then I went over to the trash can and threw up. I threw up blood. My nose was bleeding, and the way I landed, it was just running down back of my throat. I think we waved off on that match. That duel could have been a big match. And so obviously, or I forfeited or whatever, I don't remember. And then I had to wear a stupid face guard for the freaking tournament that they just threw at me last minute. That was terrible. It wasn't Coach's call. It was bad. And that's a whole other story I won't share right now. But yeah, he let us make our own call sometimes. But after that, before the tournament, we had an open practice for a bunch of our previous guys' names on the wall. They're like super nervous because these guys are studs, man. They come in, they've been coming back from college and whatnot, and Coach is calling people out to demonstrate stuff, calling these guys to demonstrate stuff. And he calls out Keith Barnes. I'm like, looking at this little mate. Uh-oh. It's like my weight class. And he looks around over his glasses. He's going to pull down. He's like, Chad, why don't you come out here and let Keith show his single legs? And the coach introduces us right there to each other on the mat. And he's like, Chad here has some pretty good single legs too. And so we just like, all right, here it goes. I'm so nervous. And we're circling. And he's going to demonstrate his single leg on me. And he stunts me once or twice and he shoots in. I jam him hard and sprawl. And everyone's like, ooh. I'm like, oh, I just did that. Now he's going to kill me. So we reset, we do it again. And it's just like his son Grain. He does it again. I sprawl on him again. I'm not letting him have it, making him work for it. And I want to say it's like the third time. We reset to do it again. We get back up. And he stunts, and as he's rocking his weight back, I shoot, boom, get him into a high single, and I walk him straight back into an inside trip, boom, falls into some free weights in the corner. I catch him. He's got this look on his face. I'm like, oh God, he's going to kill me. It was like I just had like shark eyes. I just like blanked out. Everyone's like, ooh. And yeah, Keith was cool about it. Looked at Coach is giggling. It was like every day, Coach is like, everybody says that they were Coach's personal throwing dummy. Like, to a man. Everybody's like, yeah, I was like Coach's personal throwing dummy. Dude, he threw us all around that much. I swear he just thought, I guess I just made like squeaky noises like a chew toy. And he would launch us, man. Yeah. At the time I didn't know where I was going to end up, what I was going to be doing. But in the couple years that followed, I found myself in the Marine Corps, in a Raider unit, with a bunch of bad dudes, man. And I just had to survive every day. Just like at Mac Wrestling, man. And we got to scrap a bit there. It was a lot of fun. And I got to roll with dudes from Iowa and guys from Nebraska and guys from Oklahoma, all over the place. Really good dudes, really good wrestlers, man. And I was able to hang with a lot of them. Long enough to get me out of some sticky jams, at least. And I would have made you proud, Coach. The last time I saw him, while he was still coach, I came back on. I was on recruiter's assistance. And I swung by the school to do the whole thing in uniform. So I went on up to the wrestling room to see Coach and rolling in my Charlies, all starched. And at this point, though, they got female wrestlers. And so I'm kind of like, whoa, what the, huh? This one girl's like jawing at me a lot. She, why don't you get out here? Why don't you get out here? And I was like, ooh, this is a bad idea, man. Look at the coach, like, hey, I got some stuff you can throw on. I was like, Coach, I probably shouldn't. Like, it's a no-win, dude. If I win, a Marine beat up a girl, right? And if I lose, a girl beat up a Marine. So I was like, I got places to be, Coach. Like, can I, And honestly, I probably shouldn't have gotten out there and started wrestling in that moment because I did have places to be. But I still regret not rolling with them. That would have been good. That would have been good for me at that point in my Marine Corps career, just to get back to touch that stone once again. Fast forward, I've spent well over a decade as a trainer, as an instructor. And so much of how I teach, my approach to communicating with students, comes directly from how I was taught by Coach. It's an amalgam, how I learn, how I process, and how I translate that to students. But so much of how Coach approached it with us was meeting us where we were at, getting on the mat with us in the same point in life. He's like 50 years old at the time, and he's rolling around with us. Like, teaching us those techniques, drilling those techniques. Drill. And he'd get us to that point of exhaustion, and he would have us lay on the mats, close our eyes, and he would talk us through our next match. Have us visualize everything from walking out onto the mat to having our hands raised. And that's how you build champions. It's like every one of those championships is like just shared by the whole team because it's an individual sport that is impossible without a true team. And there's so many other people that want to put that trainer hat on that just don't understand it. He has a legacy because he put into every student along the way. He met the students where they were at. He found their weaknesses, and he trained those weaknesses until you can no longer find weaknesses. He trained them until they became a strength. I was 130 pounds, and I'm 6 feet tall at the time. Beanpole. But he'd pull me out of my group, out of my weight class at times in practice, a lot of times. And we were doing the Greco stuff, the standing and pommeling stuff and throws. He would put me in with the heavyweights because he knew that I was going to fill out someday. And he was right. And fast forward just a couple years, I got in some real fights with bigger dudes, and I was able to stand on my feet, stay on my feet, keep the hands off of me, and turn the leverage against them to dominate. Multiple times. Because Coach knew that someday I'd be in a place where I was going to have to deal with bigger people. He could have let me just linger in my weight class, but he looked at me where I was at, and he could see, he had the vision to see where I would be someday. And regardless if I was going to be off in college wrestling, I really didn't have that in the cards. But he knew someday I was going to be somewhere. He knew I wanted to be in the military someday. He knew I was going to be doing something like that. He was preparing me for that day. And every time we were on the mat, he was on the mat with us. Our victories, our defeats, our injuries, everything, he was always there with us. And he was always there for us when we lost it. And we failed, he felt it. I wish people could have a trainer in their life that truly filled that hole. And I'm not talking idol worship here. I'm not. It's time a buddy today about legacy. About how a mentor to you sees something about you and puts them right a mixture of pressure and patience and time and love and what appears to be hate that sometimes puts all that into you because I see the potential. And then down the road, you're in that position and you can do that too for somebody else. And in turn, they do it for somebody else. Coach doesn't know it, but he saved a couple careers in the Marine Corps. Guys that did 22 years. And more even. Because they were in the same position I was in. And I identified, hey, these guys are going to get thrown out with the trash like most of us if they don't have somebody intercede on their behalf, right? And so I took special interest in those guys. I saw that potential and that desire and did everything I could to put them in a position so that they could hopefully succeed, at least give them their shot, and they did. And it changed the trajectory of their career. And who knows how many other Marines were positively affected by that guy. And a lot of that goes back to Coach. It was an awesome weekend. I didn't get to make it to the actual official banquet and ceremony last night. It seems like a really awesome time. And it was really cool to see that it wasn't just Coach up there getting the accolades, but also several other people I know, guys that I kind of grew up with that were still older than me that have previously been inducted to the Hall of Fame. Like, it's amazing, man. It's really amazing. It was really good to see him get that recognition. He's always had it from us, but to see it from the other athletes and from the city, because he really put the city on the map, put that school on the map. And he actually created a place for a sport, the oldest sport in our town, But those young kids that he trained, not all of them came to Mac. Quite a few of them went to the other 2 high schools in our town and wrestled against us. Yeah. So that's just a little bit about me and where I come from and my wrestling coach and my teammates. Some good dudes, man. So when we talk training, understand where I come from. The greatest wrestling program in Texas. And a coach who was sparring partners with Dan Gable. Like, man, I'm just a dude. I'm just trying to survive practice most days. So until next time, hope you have a good one. But be glad that there's people like Coach Knouse out there. And that people like Coach Knouse created a bunch of other guys that are going out and imparting life lessons to people. Imparting valid, timeless skills to others that are cops, that go into the military, that are family men, dads, like all over the place. But they're taking those ethics into the world with them. You don't stop just being a champion. It takes culture. And if you're blessed enough to be in that culture of champions, you're all right. So thanks for listening to me flap my gums, reliving some old glory. Let's go, Mac.